Good morning. Happy Saturday. Um, yeah, I'm going to review this video here from Digital Gnosis or Gnosis, however it's pronounced. Pinecreek gets brutally destroyed on bad political views. So, yeah, let's take a look. So, morning, everybody. Let me adjust this just for at least a little bit. I mean, Nathan was bigger than me, and that was making me feel a little self-conscious. Um, the first things first, I was on Pinecreek's channel last night and did not do well. I decided to get into my cups and then go on to his show. Not a great combo. One should not drink and Doug. So don't be like me. Don't do that. That being said, I'm not entirely sure how the conversation went. It was probably unproductive, as most conversations I think with Doug are. But one of the things that had come up, I brought it up in the last video that I did, was that he was on Nathan's channel. This is Nathan here. Nathan Orman runs a YouTube channel called Digital Gnosis. He's a smart lad from, and I can call him a lad, I think. I think it's okay for me to do that. He's from England, so lad is appropriate. Perhaps I'm appropriating. Apologies if I am. Anyway, he's a strapping guy. He knows jujitsu, so he could probably like tear me in half like a phone book. But he seems to be a pretty reasonable dude, and he has known Pinecreek probably longer than I have. And he's closer with Pinecreek. I think he's had more conversations, more in-depth conversations with Pinecreek, I should say. In fact, I think Nathan might credit Pinecreek for being one of the biggest influences on Nathan kind of deconstructing a little bit. I don't think that I think he's still a Christian or at least a theist, but he's not sort of the fundamentalist Pentecostal street preachery kind of thing. I think he was kind of going towards, so he'd have to tell me himself. So, anyway, this is a long stream. It was 5 hours long. I'm going to kind of scrub through it until I get to the parts, the bits with Pinecreek, and Pinecreek's on it for most of it. So I'm going to have to be, I'll be bounced around in it. So I apologize for that. Let me say hello to a few people. Warren is here. Good to see you. Rodent is here. He actually got the notification early. Yeah, maybe because you're not getting the notifications with other notifications. No one else is live at this time, right? Unless they're in, like, you know, the UK. So I mean, it's 5:30 in the morning my time. So did I already do this one? No, I did mention this one. I did mention this video, but I have not covered it yet. So damn it, gotta work. No smug Doug from me this morning. Don't talk too much this time. Yeah, can't guarantee that. I can't follow points if you go on more than 10 seconds. I think that's Doug's problem too, Warren. Fun fact, I got Nathan to repent of his sins and believe in Jesus Christ. I mean, legitimately or not? He claims it was not sincere, but I have my doubts. It wasn't sincere. If Nathan said it wasn't sincere, you can take that to the bank. He was not being serious about that. So, Nathan is a physicalist, as far as I know. Doubt he still believes in God. I think one of his social media contacts or pages says something like he's a Christian, a Burkean conservative. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Whatever. He's a young guy. Those titles are going to change over time. He literally knelt down and begged Jesus for forgiveness. Did he at any point demand that God strike him? Lest God strike me dead. Kind of thing. Did he do that? Because if he did that, he was not being serious, probably. Hey, Math Pig's here. Streaks through chat. Good to see you. Also, congrats on the snake. I saw a post that you had where you had a snake, a boa constrictor, or maybe a ball python. I think it was a ball python. Anyway, congrats. They can be kind of fun. I do not like keeping snakes. I did when I was a kid. Kind of a lot of upkeep for the one that I had. Anyway, let's not get distracted with that. Let's get into this. So, back to my apology tour. My drunken rambling through Pinecreek's channel last night was not good. So if you get a chance to take a look at that, don't hold that against me, or do. Up to you. You can do what you want. But I was not in tip-top shape. I was not. I was in there with half my brain tied behind my back. If that makes sense. So, but with this one, we're going to jump into, just some stuff with, just got another 5 ball. You have 5 ball pythons? Wait, just got another. So 5 is not the total? Is the total higher than 5? You've got more than 5 snakes. Inquiring minds need to know. Michael, I appreciate you showing up as a mod, but you don't need to be here. I understand that it's too early. You don't have to be around for this one. You don't get paid for this. Don't worry about it. So please don't stick around if you don't want to. Or do. Don't let me tell you what to do. And thanks for this reminder. Vic Lit, so you are just an hour ahead. I thought you might have been living in a time zone where dawn has actually cracked. I guess we're all mad here. Yeah, it's not yet for where I am, but it doesn't help that this particular office, its window faces the west, so I'm kind of waiting for the light to kind of come in. So in the meantime, I look like this monitor illuminated pervert, which I think is fitting. I mean, had 4, got into the building his enclosure now as I listen. Okay, good to know. It is afternoon, right? Well, no, it's 10:30, I believe, in Ireland, right? 10:30 a.m. So a good morning to you, Matt Pig. All right, so here we go. This is Pinecreek gets brutally destroyed on bad political views. This takes a long time, so I'm not exactly sure how much is in this. Let me scrub through a bit because there's going to be some intro from Nathan where he's going to talk about himself and maybe his jiu-jitsu routine. I'm just kidding. I mean, he's a real alpha, this guy. Like just blah, blah, blah. Oh, whoa. 28 minutes in. Doug is already there. Let's see what happens. And then this dude with whatever kind of weird Trump Wojak AI image that is great. Okay. This will get interesting. Let's kick this off and see what happens.
The only reason I don't want it to is because what always happens is
it's no fun. I promise I won't take up more of his time. You don't have to be jealous. I get it.
It's not the jealousy. It's that what he does is he'll bully you and then distract from his own things.
No, let me just.
Okay,
come
you go.
on. I'm not gonna bully. He's not. One, I don't think he'll bully me. 2, let him on, and if he does, you can kick one of us. How about that?
Okay.
Come on.
I'm not gonna bully Sean. We're friends.
Much history, though.
No, this is.
Pinecreek does not believe in community, so I'm not exactly sure he understands the meaning of friendship.
Sincere. Like Sean and I have had a rough start. Remember Danny and me, Nathan? Remember how the rough start Danny had and me?
Is he talking about Danny at Phil Talk?
And I think it was very similar to Sean and I, but
I can see these guys not getting along. Like Danny from Phil Talk. If any of you know who he is, Phil Talk YouTube, Phil Talk on TikTok. Danny's a good guy. Not well liked. Was abrasive to a lot of people in the community. I once kicked him off my channel. because he was getting really upset with somebody because he was trying to make a philosophical point. I think he was making a good point, but he was coming across real overbearing, and I was like, yeah, okay, go away, Danny. But Danny's a good guy, and maybe I have to say that now because I think he's got a bigger audience than me. But Danny's much better at philosophy than I am. That's his thing. I think he's getting his PhD in that. He's earning that in some way.
Over time, I'm being honest. I think Sean and I have become like not close friends or anything, but we're okay with each other, right, Sean?
That's how I turn you liberal, Doug. I've snuck in there. I've got my.
You got my.
I just want to say, Doug was liberal before when he took that quadrant test, the Australian one. He was about as liberal as Hillary Clinton. He was right in the same range. And then my brother was actually reminding me of this. He said, yeah, then he said that he took it again and he scored more conservative. Like he figured out how to answer the questions in a way to kind of move he didn't say how much further it moved it rightward. But apparently that made him a little bit, for a second, I think it made him a little bit self-conscious about his political leanings. So Doug is a sociopath, so friends exist exclusively to serve him. Kind of. I mean, for a sociopath, isn't a friend basically the other person at the other side of the card table kind of thing? It's just somebody that you're gaming with. That's how I've heard it described.
No.
You're doing the Christian thing. You're being really nice and kind and loving by example, so you can sneak me into liberalism.
You're like an older brother I never had, Doug.
You're very quiet to me, though, Sean. Is he quiet to you, Nathan?
He's not.
A little bit quiet, but I reckon maybe put the volume. It's not too bad for me. Like maybe it's your volume.
I think Shane or Sean, whatever. I think it's Sean. Just has a crappy mic.
Volume.
I have one thing that I want to mention while I have both of you here, and this is one of the main reasons to bring you on, because Doug, you always talk about politics, and Nathan, if you have a line on this, Danny's friends with a couple of the political guys that I watch on YouTube or that are on TikTok via YouTube. And I think it would be interesting for Doug to talk to like a Parker Get a Job or a couple of
Parker
the other.
Get a Job?
They debate Trump versus Biden, and they're just knowledgeable, and I think it'd be interesting to watch you with one of those guys. Sure. You know what I'm talking about, Nathan?
I don't know the guys, but I
don't
mean,
know them either.
I think I would, in terms of what I would actually enjoy of Doug's political content, I think him talking to like political streamers in one-on-ones would be something I would like enjoy, like from an entertainment perspective.
But what's interesting, Sean, is like people think like people who disagree with me politically, they think, oh, if only Doug talked to so-and-so or so-and-so, that would change Doug's mind.
Really? People think that? I don't think they understand how obstreperous Doug is.
I don't think that.
Yeah,
I think
like Nathan's smart enough to realize that a lot of these issues are value-oriented and
right, and Doug's values are basically authoritarian. They're kind of authoritarian, top-down. Do what I say. Don't do it as I do. Some people deserve to get off the hook, and others need to be heavily scrutinized. Blah 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 blah. Outsiders not welcome. Insiders okay. Double standards are acceptable. Yeah, he's whatever his political ethic is, it's more consistent with. And I tried explaining this when I was on his show, very drunk. But he doesn't really have an ethic. It's just sort of cobbled together from things that he's kind of pieced together over time. But his inclinations when he's talking about politics, especially like his reaction to an immigration problem. It's not really immigration. We have a refugee situation happening in several Central and South American countries, and it results in so it can result in social problems here. There's a short that Doug did. It's a news story from Colorado where they're talking about a Venezuelan prison gang has kind of like taken over certain sections of Denver, and it's become a problem for law enforcement. And so for Doug, this is immigration. Like, okay, but Venezuela has been in a refugee crisis for the better part of a year. And the instability down there is not entirely not our fault, just as like a political kind of thing. Generally, the United States is not about making South America and Central America more stable. We usually make them unstable, for the gain of capitalists. If you want a good look at that, you can check out Greg Grandin's books. Fordlandia is a good example. Ford's efforts to build a factory in the Amazon, great book. But he also has one, I can't remember the title, but it's about America's kind of imperialistic intentions in Central and South America. Gets into a lot of that. So yeah. When Doug talks about a lot of these issues, I always kind of wonder, like, how well informed is he on this? And then, when he insists that I keep my point short, I realize he's not well informed at all.
And they go deep into how you were raised and your experiences, and people just see the world differently, and that's okay.
Does Matt Slick use the word obstreperous? Huh. Good for him.
And you've got to be open to the evidence as well to change your mind on some of this.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Like, people have this idea that
I like that from Nathan. Nathan's like, there's a little bit of tongue in cheek. I don't know if Doug caught that. Nathan is ribbing him there. You need to be open to the new evidence. We've been fucking up South and Central America since at least the mid 40s. Yeah, at least since the mid 40s, probably since the 20s. America's role in destabilizing Central and South America has been atrocious. It's bad. And if you think that I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, this is not me being like, ooh, I watch Democracy Now! And I read Al Jazeera and all that. Jeff, he's a progressive and Jacobin reading weirdo. No, if you take a history course on modern Central America, South America, it is eye-opening what they've had to go through. And the United States has not made things good for them, generally.
That politics is all fact, and it's about the facts and the evidence and the science.
Sophia says, "You're live late." I guess I am. Yeah, I'm either very, very late or extremely early.
A lot of it is, like, take economics, for example. When I was listening a little bit before, like, you think economic theory is a fact?
Is Nathan just drinking from a carton of juice? That's Sigma as hell.
No, I mean, economics can be viewed as almost like a religion. So yeah, it's very hard sometimes to parse out what's opinion and what's fact when it comes.
Exactly. A person that I know, a YouTuber, Doug, also a Doug, right? He does his own MMT stuff, has attempted to talk to Doug, about that kind of stuff, because the Doug that I know, the other Doug, I'm gonna have to find his channel and put it up here so I can name it. I think it's MMT Canon or something like that, or MMT Theory. No, that's not what it is. Damn. I know he subscribes to my stuff. I'm subscribed to his stuff. I can't find it right now, but Doug is kind of an MMT guy, and he uses a couple of different methods prescribed by, not really prescribed, but recommended by guys like Steve Keen. And he uses some of these systems to kind of examine the market and make investing decisions and stuff like that. He's had conversations with that Doug, and Doug is not having it. Doug is like more of a gold bug kind of thing. Yeah, anytime they've had these kinds of conversations, I'm pretty sure, I'm fairly certain that one of the reasons that Doug is still entertaining having conversations with me is because he knows that I am an MMT type, ish. You know, I like Stephanie Helton. I like Mosler. I enjoy listening to Steve Keen from Australia. I like a lot of these kind of heterodox economists. I'm a big fan of Yanis Varoufakis. He's probably my favorite, mostly because one, he's got a kick-ass name, and two, his accent is fucking awesome, and three, he makes Yul Brynner look less Greek somehow. Like Varoufakis is like all that is Greek. He's perfect. He's just great. Yeah, look his stuff up. Yanis Varoufakis. Varoufakis has a really like kind of upsetting opinion about upsetting to many people like Doug on immigration and borders too. It's hilarious if you want to look that up. It's a short.
Comes to politics, like what's the best role of government? What should the role of government be? Is that a fact of what the role of government should be? Of course not. It's opinion.
Why is it getting quieter? Is it just me?
Yeah, I just think they'd slap you around. It'd be kind of fun to watch. That's all.
You think so?
If you watch,
I don't think it's so easy to.
It's not easy to slap me around.
I know that's
I
what
think
I'm saying.
even if Doug's
I got
wrong,
tricks.
That was
yeah, I think his tricks are so good that even if he
I thought things were getting quieter. It was just my crap headphones, which I think are the same crap headphones that Doug's wearing. Twinsies.
was wrong, he'd still be able to. Or
No.
even if he came in.
That's
I'm
not
saying-
true either, Nathan. I've admitted being wrong to you before, right?
No, I know that's true. But what I mean is, if these guys would run circles around you because you were wrong, I think if they were like assholes with you, it's not like you'd get like slapped around or something. Is what I mean. I think you'd kind of.
Oh yeah, the bigger a person, if a person acts like an asshole towards me, they've lost.
No, these kids just debate Biden versus Trump on a daily basis, right? Like, and it would be fun to watch you talk to one of them, because rather than watch you talk to the normal people that come on, because they're not going to appeal towards your emotion or their emotion or any of it. They're just going to come on and they're debaters. They have rhetoric. They're smart, and it's going to be different than the normal person that comes onto your call-in show, including myself, that doesn't have a lot of.
James, please, let's not disparage the Canadians. I do like some Canadians that come down here. Michael J. Fox, James Carey, Jim Carrey, if you're nasty. Sir James Carey. Tom Cruise, Thomas Mapother. Yeah, there's plenty of Canadians that are they're great. I kind of wonder, does Canada have a list of Americans that moved north that they'd just rather not be there? If you are Canadian and you know, or even if you're not, if you're aware of like, American expats that moved to Canada and Canada's just like, we'd rather they not be here. Let us know in the chat. I'd be curious to know what their names are. If a guy acts like an asshole towards Doug, it's self-defense. Yeah. Agreed. And good morning to you. It's morning, right? Are you 7 hours ahead, Fabio? 7 or 8 hours ahead. It might be afternoon for you. By the way, good day.
Knowledge.
You calling my callers idiots?
No.
I've spoken
You
to some-
call me blood, Sean.
It was like the in your Discord channel, Doug. Sometimes it's been a little bit like the remedial class. It's been
Called it. And damn, Nathan. Damn. It's a little bit like the remedial class. Damn. Fabio says 11:43. All right. Yeah, I knew it. 2 hours ahead of England. All right. I'm starting to get this now. By the way, Fabio, I need to reach out to you and compare some. There's a marinara sauce that I've been making, a red sauce, if you will, as we call it in the United States, that I probably need to run by you. It's probably insulting to most Italians, but it's good. Too long didn't explain. It involves pesto at the end. Yeah, it's a disgrace.
Oh, I just
especially the lady you modded, the one who kicked me.
What?
Wait, there's
Oh,
a Discord
Jamie.
channel?
Jamie. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Deepak. Long time no talk. And or C. And you just when you turned your camera on, you went mute.
Greetings, brothers. Greetings.
I do. I need to put it on video. I need to get like a GoPro so I can get into the kitchen and do kind of like a prep thing and be like, hey, watch me destroy these tomatoes. I had been doing this thing with Bianco di Napoli Roma tomatoes. No basil, no salt, no sodium chloride. They bake down great. Get a little olive oil, get that going in the pan, smash some garlic, get that in the oil, let them simmer into it, remove them. Add in the tomato, get that to simmer. Add in little basil leaves if I've got them. If I don't, I throw in some dried seasoning. Yeah, that's pretty much it. A little salt. It's nice. I like it. I just got into this idea that apparently, I don't know if this is a thing. The idea of copper or bronze cut pasta or bronze pulled or pushed, something like this. I don't know why this is a thing. Apparently, you can see the texture in it. I've got a couple of straight from Italy pastas waiting for me that I'm looking forward to try. They don't look like macaroni, that's for certain. And for dingy prairie trash like myself, it's a step up. So
I like
I'm
Deepak.
driving, so
I mean, I like
I like
everybody
myself
in this call. I like Sean. I like Deepak. I like Nathan. I mean, all we need now here is Shannon Q to join, and we would have like one big happy family.
I think Shannon would yell at him, right?
the old gang will be back.
Yeah.
Transformed.
Hey, Deepak, I've got an Indian girlfriend now. Oh shit, let me.
You had an Indian
Oh,
girlfriend
she
the
there?
last time I talked to you. Is it the same one?
Yeah,
Bring her on.
Nice.
An Indian driving license right here. Look at that.
Is she there?
Wait, so she's Indian?
I don't think he should be showing that online.
Indian?
Yeah, she's Indian.
Awesome. Are you bringing her on?
She's just coming back from Amsterdam right now, so
Nice.
I think she would
What's she
like
doing
to
in
talk to Doug at some point because
Oh, she's the psychologist.
yeah, she's psychiatrist, and
I love psychologists. They
she
make me
might-
laugh.
No, Doug, my brother told me about this. No, he just said that she's a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. Difference being, a psychiatrist can prescribe you meds to deal with whatever is making your brain bad chemically. I don't know if Doug knows the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist.
funny,
Probably-
so she would
Yeah.
she would,
Yeah, I would love her to diagnose me. I think she thinks and you think I have some anti-person.
Oh, hey. All right, I'm going to post this join link here for Mr. Gnosis. For those of you who are seeing this join link, it's just for him. Or maybe I should just show it on. Oh, where's my Discord thing? Am I friended with Digital? I think I am. Yes. Maybe? God. Oh. I'm just going to put. I'm not exactly sure which connection it would go to in Discord. It's not really giving me that. So anyway, this link is for Nathan. No one else touch. Please. Do not touch. You will not come in. Nathan only. Sorry to be a dick, but it's early and I'm going to be a dick. There you go, Nathan. If you want to jump in.
Personality disorder or whatever, or antisocial disorder. But I tell you, Nathan, if you were to come visit me and we go out, you would find very quick.
Hey, how's it going?
yeah, good man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's a long time no chat. I think the last
Pinecreek, hate watching.
Yeah, as usual. I mean, it's become my thing. Instead of like you're beating down on Darth Dawkins, it's become like poking at Pinecreek. So yeah, I think the last time you were on my show, I think you got into it with another guest that I had, like not one of my mods, but you guys were
Was this
talking
that
about
Grey Knight guy, or was this something else?
Grey Knight. Yes, yeah, you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
It was a thing about you. I think you were correcting me on an observation about like a logical fallacy, and I was like, "Yes, you're right." And Grey Knight was like, "No,
He was
he's
not
wrong."
happy.
And I was like, "Yeah, he was not happy." You guys had a you guys did not get along. But anyway, it's good to see you now. So yeah. I'm not going to try to get into like the because I don't you. I think you have a closer relationship with Doug than I do. I've never really known him, personally.
Yeah, I think just to clarify, like I still consider Doug a friend. Like I think he's deeply mistaken, and I like have respect for him in certain ways, but like I'm very disturbed and upset by his epistemology as it applies to his political beliefs in particular. I think there are some big issues.
Yeah, I think that's probably my bigger issue with him too, because like when we have conversations, we generally get along. In fact, it actually irritated somebody. The last time I had an interaction with him on Discord, somebody was like, so Spatchcock and Pinecreek got into it, but they didn't really get into it. They were just like very cordial with each other, and they just disagreed. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably where. I mean, we're gonna do that. I mean, he's a native Canadian, and I'm from Canada's Florida, Michigan. So yeah, we're probably gonna be okay.
Well, the thing about Doug's rhetorical style too is that if you engage very aggressively with him, it's typically not gonna sort of like work. Usually he'll keep his cool and he will sort of like use rhetorical strategies that will make the kind of framing look as if, well, then you're just getting emotional, you're irrational. And which is obviously it's going to be sometimes true. It's not always going to be true, right? Sometimes someone can have good points and their emotions be involved in, the topic or their frustration being communicated through emotion. But I think typically from Doug's point of view, he'll be able to say, look, you're getting emotional about this. You need just think about what think about what I'm saying. I'm asking you a simple, and then to the audience that can often appear like you've lost, right? And so you've got to. I think it's better to stay calm with him anyway, and not.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He can be kind of tricky in that way. I don't know if you saw it, but I was I called into his show when he was live earlier. Well, earlier, but I mean last
night's live stream. I've not seen that yet.
Yeah. He was live last night, and I jumped in, and I was quite drunk. The problem is that usually when I get drunk, when I get to that kind of stage where I'm in my cups, I don't seem drunk. I just seem retarded, I guess is the best way to, like, mentally handicapped. Like there's something like, so I was literally going in with half my brain tied behind my back, as Pinecreek would like to say it. It's not a great performance, but I still think he enjoyed the conversation though. So
I've seen some of the comments on, oh no, I think it was a different stream I was looking at the comments on his Project 2025 Cope one.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, I didn't watch that full thing, but it sounded like someone called in and got sort of taken down this rabbit hole of kind of like, it's technically correct, but irrelevant to the central point things, about like defining capitalism or something like that, like some vague grand term like capitalism. And there's some slight dispute over how Doug thinks about it compared to some other person. It's like, well, probably the main point has been completely missed by the time you're discussing that, as opposed to like, Trump versus Harris and first order policy issues and things.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if it's going to be something like as simple as spending. Like, do you want the government to spend a lot more money putting soldiers shoulder to shoulder along the border between the United States, which is what he actually is advocating? Like, oh, I want soldiers there that can physically push the immigrants away. Like, Doug, are you insane? Like, why push? Why not?
Hey, it's better than going to Ukraine. It's better than that money going to Ukraine where it can defeat Putin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like why do we need to be there? Geopolitical strategy doesn't matter anymore. Give up on that. Line people up to push people away from crossing the border. Like we can monitor them, right? That they get arrested, right? Like they practically get tagged and bagged.
Yeah, but we don't kick them out. We put them up in hotels in New York where we're spending billions a year on this 5-star luxury life because the welfare state in the US is massive and over extravagant.
Supposedly, and Doug does this kind of stuff all the time, where it's just like, I want a president that will, like, shame these fat bags and these fat poor people for making poor decisions, but like these wealthy people, you got to get off their backs and stop making them pay for these 5-star hotels for these immigrants. Like, they're not, Doug. Like, this is none of this stuff is happening. Like, what the? By the way, we don't want a nanny state, but I do want the severe governance.
Yeah, but we do it, but except for the fucking police and the military.
Exactly. Yeah, but in Doug's case, it's like, I want you to remind those people when they're on their third Twinkie to, like, if you keep eating like that, you'll turn stout. Like, what the fuck? Like, he's just bonkers. Like, when I first thought I had a handle on his politics, I thought he was a libertarian, and I was a libertarian in my 20s, and I thought, like, okay, well, when I was a libertarian, I didn't want rules on prostitution, drugs, or borders. Like, I just wanted to rip and run. I basically wanted some kind of, like, capitalist kind of anarchy kind of thing. But when I hear him talking about this kind of stuff, it's like, he's not a libertarian. He's basically kind of a fascist. He's an authoritarian.
Yeah, I think there's like a number of different things going on in his political view. So one of them is, I think there's like the sort of the appeal of the simplicity of the logic of the libertarian kind of point of view and the free market point of view, which is like, you can just kind of story tell about markets and the bad guys fail and everything turns out good. And I think he likes that kind of story and will apply it to some aspects of reality. But I think there's also various issues around which there are kind of like wedge issues. So, they're ones where you would define basically your political in-group and your political out-group by taking a stance on. And I think that some of his weirder points of view have just been adopted by engaging with like the media landscape around those issues and realizing like which side of the issue he has to be on to appeal to a certain audience or the audience that's kind of like captured him on his YouTube channel, right? And so I think that like the Amain Khalif thing is a great example of this, because as he said in the video that he did with me, like 4 or 5 years ago, he didn't have any views about these trans issues. He didn't, hadn't thought about it. It didn't impact his life.
Right.
And the only way it's made his way into his life is through, like culture war nonsense in the news cycle and online. And then he's like taken a kind of like stock NPC stance on it of like the pro and con kind of sides. And he just goes with all the talking points. So I guarantee he didn't watch one fight in the Olympics with Amain Khalif in it, but he's got all these views about, like whether or not she should be in and the status and doesn't know anything about her boxing record or whatever.
I gotta say, for fans of anybody watching now, if anybody sees this, I was watching him give comments in your Discord space, and he was in there and he was talking with guys like Titan and a few other people. And he's just going back and forth. He was there for hours back and forth. And basically the point that I got from him was that his justification for believing that Amain Khalif is a secret male is because Umar Kremlev of the IBA said so, and because Doug won't ask her out for coffee.
Yeah, he doesn't even go with the evidence anymore. So he did initially, and then when he realized the evidence is like extremely weak, he just says like, my mammal pattern-seeking brain, right? And then which is just like this free check. It's like when theists say, my rational intuitions tell me. It's just like a repackaging of describing the conclusion of I believe this, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I tried to challenge him on this by saying like, look, I'm going to just show you like a bunch of images about people where, according to the description and stuff on the website, like these were from like blog posts and things, you know whether this person's a biological female or whether they were an intersex person. I was like, let's play a game of like intersex, because he said his mammal pattern-seeking brain could tell him if someone was intersex.
Right.
We only got through 2 of the images, and he was wrong both times. And then he was like, and then the way that rather than him going, oh yeah, I guess that I was actually just, I was making a rhetorical point, and actually I'm wrong, right? Instead of saying that, he was like, how do you know that she's actually intersex? Because you're trusting the description on the website. And then I was like,
and that's the trick, right? Because he's been doing that, like the LaPointe interview with the trainer. the trainer comes out and is like, look, her reaction to this allegation from the IBA was devastating to her. And I'm like, yeah, it would be. If you found out that genetically you might be something different than you thought you were, is a huge deal. And then you're probably going to go to your doctor and be like, hey, let's figure this out. Let's find out what's going on. And then he turns around and says, oh, we went to an endocrinologist and we found these other, according to him, he was like, well, the endocrinologist says, yeah, she's a woman, but she does have outlying characteristics in terms of like either chromosomes or testosterone levels or something like that. Okay. Doug just gets them like, aha, he knew. Imani Khalif, secret man, knew all along. Like, no, dude, it's
not even legal in Algeria to be trans, like it's literally illegal in that country.
Yeah, exactly. And it just seems like this like chronically online brained kind of like Twitter manufactured consensus that he's got running in his head. Like, no. There's something going on here. And then he was trying to turn it against me and other people like, oh, you guys have some conspiracy theory against Umar Kremlev. Like,
it's not a conspiracy theory. He literally, because Russia's not in the Olympics, this is like a political point in Russia to try and like spread disinformation to sow discord. Like the same thing with the undermining Christian values opening ceremony and stuff. It's just appealing to like terminally online Americans and some Europeans who have these like really bad hot takes and trying to just get as much bullshit out there that will wind them up, get their system one thinking to get them to like commit to, woke takeover of the Olympics or whatever. And that's literally all it is. There aren't even any trans athletes in this Olympics that were competing.
Yeah, there were none this time. The weird thing for me was, and I mentioned this in my last, one of his videos, like 3-4 videos back, and I was covering it. He's like, oh, this is a bad look for you LGBTQ people. And I'm like, Imani Khalif has nothing to do with the trans community, man. Like, you guys made this about the trans community. You did that. You pushed that onto trans people.
Freaks.
They're just like,
they're all just freaks. That's the category it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
No like, more than there's freaks.
Yeah, those freaks and those weirdos over there are trying to make your kids commie gays. Like, what? Love it. All right, so I don't know. So he's already done this one once where he's mistaken where I paused it here in the video. He mistook your current romantic partnership. He said psychologist. You said psychiatrist. He's like, oh, yes, I love psychologists. I'm like, there is a big difference between the two of those. I don't know if Doug knows that. He probably is not super aware of the difference. He should be aware that your current girlfriend could prescribe him medications that would make him quite a different person.
I can prove it.
Stop showing her information online. Why are you doing that? Thank you, doctor, for your service.
I'm being Ben Shapiro. Okay, but my wife is a doctor. My wife, who is a doctor.
Yeah, my wife's a doctor. She's a nurse practitioner. She can treat that dry pussy that you've got there. All right. I'm gonna. Do you mind sticking around? I'm gonna push into the video.
Yeah. Don't worry. Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see what he does.
Let me know, by the way, if you get feedback, because I'm not on my like normal setup. The mic and the, if there's feedback, let me know.
For me, you sound fine. Audience, if you're getting some kind of feedback or echo, give a shout out in the chat. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything. It sounds good. Fabio says, I have to correct you. There were trans athletes at the last Paris Olympics, just to name one, American runner Nikki Hills. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so. I think at this Olympics, though, there were no trans athletes at all.
The last Paris Olympics, they mean like not the one this year. They mean like years and years ago or something, or
years and years, or the last Paris Olympics or the last Olympic, like because I think the Tokyo Olympics were 2020.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think my understanding is, and I could be wrong, is that at this 2024 Olympics that there weren't any trans athletes, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, because I thought there was a trans athlete or two at the Tokyo Olympics Summer Games, but maybe not. Yeah,
I will look it up online.
I do know that for as far as these games go, there were no trans athletes represented. So says no 2024 Olympics. Nikki Hiltz was the one for this Olympics. Okay.
Okay, it looks like there were some actually. Oh no, which are not allowed to compete. So some of them are not allowed to compete apparently as well, or were not allowed to compete. Oh yeah, it's just all athletes are compliant with the eligibility and entry regulations, but that would mean that then if there were trans athletes, then they comply with like the rules around being on hormones for a certain amount of time and stuff like that. So I think I was mistaken then to say that there were no trans athletes. Thanks for
I'm basing that off of a New York Times article that I read, and apparently they got that wrong because they were saying there were no trans athletes represented in this Olympics, and I don't think that was right. So thank you for that, Fabio. All right, let's see here.
I'm the life of the party.
I think that's probably right, but I think there's something going on, Doug. I know your mom had you tested, but there's something.
Well, no, I admit I
tested.
Empathy and compassion are.
His mom had him tested.
Well, he wears the like Sheldon Cooper T-shirt thing. There's nothing wrong with me. My mum had me tested or something like that, and he makes that joke sometimes. He says, I know I'm not a psychopath. My mum had me tested or whatever.
Gotcha.
And so it's like an in joke with him, but I don't know if his parents did have him tested for something. I suspect that Doug has been tested for something, and I don't know what. And I think he knows that, like whether it's like some ASD or something like that,
I don't know. I mean, he's from Manitoba and he's Mennonite. I mean, it's basically like being homeschooled by, the Amish people. Like, I don't know if anybody here has seen the movie Kingpin, but I imagine that was a little bit like his Amish upbringing.
Even in his adulthood, like, I mean, I don't know if it's already happened in this segment of the conversation or if it's about to happen, but he says something like, oh yeah, I can't do empathy or something like that. It's like there's something wrong with this guy. I mean, I love him, but there's something wrong with him.
Yeah, he said that before, and it's one of the things it's kind of bugged me because I remember him saying like he doesn't gravitate towards community or whatever, and I'm like, all right, that's a little bit troubling because that might mean that you're a little bit of a psychopath. But then he would talk about like, he really seems to resent the notion, like his idea of a liberal is essentially the tree hugging hippie, the bleeding heart liberal tree hugging hippie.
Not having emotions when really that the question of whether or not someone should have emotions and what degree they should play in people's value judgments is like independent of whether or not he happens to have them or not.
Right. And it seems to me a more nuanced position of that is like, I would rather somebody talk about the fact that they can make reasoned decisions within their emotions, not trying to do this weird, like, sort of the childish, like idea of like Vulcan logic kind of stuff where there's this, it's just pure rationality. There's no emotion. Like, yeah, you don't need that. It's not one, it's not necessary. Two, it's not important. And three, it's not sophisticated.
I don't even think it's correct for how sort of like argument works, right? I think that good argument appeals. It involves all of those things, like the pure content of any kind of like claims that you're making, but also like considerations about human emotions and our values, which tie to like our emotions and notions of like well-being and flourishing and things.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the interesting things because he'll go on about like, in a way, talk about kind of effective rhetoric and stuff like that. Like what's going to work. I'm like, well, that's
becomes a big part of the conversation later because what makes him feel icky is a huge part of how he assesses, what's right and wrong, basically, when it comes to politics. Like he agrees that the disagreement on, say, trans issues or LGBT issues is basically like it makes him sad to allow these people to exist in the world in a particular kind of way. And then he's like, well, it might make them sad to not be allowed to exist in that way. And it's like, whose feelings do we care about more? And he's like,
they need to care about his more, right? Yeah, the white guy from Manitoba.
Are not like high things on my whatever scale. Like I admit that, but I don't make apologies for it either. That's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that.
But society needs people like me. I mean, sometimes you gotta make these tough moral dilemma decisions, and
Okay, I'm going to call that out right now. There's two things that I dislike. One of them is, and I've said this before, the first person to say that they are a no bullshit person is the biggest piece of shit person going. Like the first person to say, like, I'm no bullshit, I tells it like it is. Guaranteed that person is a conniving dickhead. I mean, out the gate.
I think what it is in Doug's case though is that he'll say like, I'm going to tell it like it is, but he's only really saying that because he knows his takes are like offensive and harmful, and he's trying to like normalize that.
That was my second. That was my second thing. Using that kind of a statement as a cover for the offense that people will take. Yeah, that was the other one. The one to me, the first part I think is really kind of damaging because this isn't necessarily for Doug, but there's always this one person. It's sort of like a George W. Bush. Like I'm a no bullshit guy. Anybody that worked for George W. Bush knew he was 100% bullshit 100% of the time. That was his stock in trade. So if you hear somebody say they're no bullshit, they're probably all bullshit. You know when somebody's not bullshit when they never say that ever. They will never tell you that they're not bullshit because they will not engage in that bullshit, right? And in Doug's case, for some of the opinions that he has, he tries to make it seem like he's salt of the earth or he's just kind of this common denominator kind of thing. And it's like, you're not. Like most of his reactions, especially about the trans stuff, it's disgust. He's just reacting with disgust. And then he's justifying his disgust with bad evidence. Like trying to, well, they go into bathrooms they don't belong in. Like, no, I don't. Like, well, that they get up to things that they shouldn't. Like, no, I don't. Like, they drink blood at night. Not all of them, but a few. Like, no, I don't. What? Yeah, I mean, he just keeps doing this kind of stuff. And it just keeps coming across as a lot, frankly, crazier than it should.
Yeah, I think I do sort of I agree with what he's saying though to an extent of society is like a very complicated thing and there's room for all sorts of different people and there are like jobs and things where people like that can flourish, that can be necessary. I think there's probably going to be some disagreement between what he's saying where I think from his point of view there's like a natural hierarchy and people have their natural place in it. But I mean, like insofar as his claim is like there's place for people like him to flourish and they can do good things still, that other people can't because their emotions are too much. I think I would agree with that much. But I agree with the, when people often sort of story tell about how much you can trust them. So they'll say, like I'm a straight shooter. I tell it like it is. I'm a no bullshit guy. I used to be really gullible, so now you can trust me as someone who's skeptical and stuff. Like, why do you need to tell me, like, almost like double count whatever reasons you're about to give me by telling me about how good of a trick you are? Instead, you should just tell me what the like claims are, and then we can see whether or not they're right without trying to sort of like trick me into trusting you or something.
I should take this into account when I tell people, like, yeah, I was a conservative back in the day. So you can trust me. I've never been duped before.
The problem is every time it's not that there's anything wrong with sort of just providing that information, but what I've noticed is people usually with very wrong beliefs about things sort of use this as a rhetorical strategy to get their audience to believe in them. It's like, look, I used to be against UFOs. I was the most skeptical UFO guy. I knew all the cases. I could tell you all the facts about Roswell and why it was wrong. But then, then I had my experience. And you see it in the UFO community, ghost hunting community, religious community, political
flat Earth community. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
exactly.
it's just being cautious about these kind of framing strategies.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what he mentions next.
And make people cry.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want you to be ethnically cleansed. or neurodivergent.
I would say we need a
You
few
need
people
me.
like you.
Yeah, 6% is probably, I think, what science is. We need a me.
I gotta ask, what were you drinking?
Oh,
What is that? Is that a great big thing of juice?
that is literally soy milk.
Oh, nice.
It's literally
You are-
soy chocolate milk.
You're a soy boy. Yes. Yeah, I love that stuff. I'd never seen that brand before. Like you were just downing it. I'm like, he looks like a Brazilian just like chugging papaya juice.
Yeah, it's soy
Like-
chocolate milk. I don't know if I really love that stuff. I think it's it need those phytoestrogens, or I'll get too conservative.
Yeah, I don't know if any of these idiots know this, but yeah, if you drink a lot of that kind of stuff, it makes you go hard sexually. It's a little bit like eating pumpkin seeds or eating a lot of ham, as they said in American Dad. Like, I can really pump when I'm full of ham. Sorry. But yeah, no, I was wondering what else you were just like downing this stuff, and I'm like, what is that? Like, what was he just like guzzling?
It's soy
The
milk.
fact that it's a chocolate soy drink. Oh God. Thank you, Nate. Because I could just like show off, like, hey, here's a guy consuming soy. He doesn't have boobs. And we can find images of you online where you clearly don't have boobs.
But you can find images of me where I do have boobs.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, all right. Can you not hear me now?
Oh, I can't hear you.
I
I don't know
think-
why.
I think that's your end.
Can the audience hear him?
Hello, audience. I have boobies. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Weird. I could hear you. I can hear you on the YouTube side. I think they can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I don't know what's happened.
How about now?
Can you hear? Hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah.
Right.
I'm telling you, like, if you use one of these web-based stream things like StreamYard, I quit paying them. So my service ends, I think, September 9th.
Mhm.
It has gotten a lot less reliable since I canceled. A lot less reliable. Yeah. All right.
6%. But I'm special then, right? Oh, you
are
should see the
special.
video. You should see the video I just made of rationality rules. On the Khalif Imani Khalif thing.
I mean, I suspect I'm probably not going to find it.
Guess what I made? Guess what I did?
It's probably like him, like using emotional language, and you're like playing a violin in the background.
No, it's not that, but that's a good guess. His basic thing was don't assume Khalif is male because the evidence doesn't support it. And I just reversed the burden of proof. I said don't assume Khalif is female because the evidence doesn't support it.
Yes, so something so dumb that I couldn't guess what it was. Like, wow, that's smart.
I'm gonna say, like, this is your friend. This is your friend. Fix him.
Oh, fix him. He's too fucked up. Like, I tried. Like, this 5-hour stream was an attempt at, like, I think one of the mistakes I made was actually letting too many people in, because there were a number of occasions where I think I had him cornered on a point, and then because there were so many people involved, they would bring up other points, and like, or he would kind of appeal to them, and you get stuff that you go down these like red herring pathways where
Right.
if it was just me and him, I would just be like hammering him on that one point. But
There's a part I wish I could flip to it, because I would probably flip to it and then just end this chat now, or this stream now. It's the part where he says he claims that a guest that comes into your stream says that JD Vance wrote the foreword to Project 2025.
someone may have said that. I don't know if they said that in the chat or if they said that calling in.
They-
I can't remember.
He showed the clip on his video, and they started to, but I think Deepak or somebody else started talking over them and it got cut off. So the person literally says, all you can hear is JD Vance wrote the forward, and it cuts off. And so Doug runs with this whole thing like, this person thinks that JD Vance wrote the forward to 2025, and this is this left-wing propaganda that these people are all gobbling up. And I'm like,
I don't believe
I'm
that.
on the left wing.
Yeah.
I don't know a single person that is circulating that JD Vance wrote. JD Vance did write the forward for the president of the Heritage Foundation's new book. That's circulating online. No one's saying that JD Vance wrote the forward for 2025.
I mean, I suspect then this guy just probably got that mixed up, right? And the point is, he called in, made a point.
At the worst, at the worst, he got that goofed up. Just like, okay,
the least charitable take possible is like someone comes in, mentions it in a muffled play. No one even hears it or pays attention. It's like, got them. Look what these idiots believe. That's
it. That's what Doug was doing. I'm just like, Doug, Jesus Christ, but I wanted to be super. He's done this before. I'm like, oh, hang on. Did he say that JD Vance wrote the forward for 2025? No, he did not. He said JD Vance wrote the forward. That's it. That's all he said. That's all that came out before he got cut off. Did he say he wrote the forward for 2025? And Doug's like, oh, well, he did. And all these lefties believe this stupid shit. There's no forward for 2025, you idiots. Like, no one's saying that. He didn't say that. And semantically, if you want to get really autistic about it, that didn't happen, man. So, yeah. Actually, I think that was the reason that I called into a show last night, but I never got there because I was drunk.
So I do actually have a DM on Patreon from a guy who said he was the one who said that, and he says, in the comments I wrote that JD Vance wrote the forward to 2025. I don't know where I picked up that bit of false info, but I didn't check it and it was wrong. Apparently he wrote the forward to Heritage Foundation guy. 2025 doesn't have a forward. Doug is now downplaying 2025 and using JD Vance thing to frame leftists as being conspiracy brain. Sorry about that. I mean, he wrote the forward to Heritage Foundation guy's book. So it looks like someone just misspoke. They actually have true beliefs now. They have slightly modified what they were saying. And that should literally be the end of it, not a 2-hour stream allegedly about, the Heritage Foundation, where the only fucking thing that gets talked about is leftists are all wrong and have misinformation. There's reams of shit to talk about around Project 2025, and that is just nothing. That's this pathetic attempt to reframe, and it frustrates the hell out of me. But
yeah. And you guys ask him this later in this video. You guys ask him, are you concerned about Project 2025?
What I was trying to do as well there is I ask him I'm trying to say what do you actually agree with in it, and what do you disagree about in it? And I tried to do the same about Trump's policies, and there's one vague point that he can mention that he agrees with, and then there's a bunch of points that he's I disagree with. And I'm like, so why do you support this shit still? It makes no sense to tally up the amount of things that you can say you think are wrong versus the amount of things that you can say are right. It doesn't make sense why you land on that side. Why does this one point get so much weight?
Yeah, the idea of if he's kind of leaning into immigration first, the idea of a militarized border is something the Democratic Party has bought into as a narrative.
Yeah.
If you vote for a Democratic candidate like Kamala Harris, you're probably going to get more of the same kind of border treatment that we get now.
It's just going to be the same.
One of the criticisms that I've made is that one of the reasons it looks as bad as it does is because it is militarized in the way that Doug would like it to be.
I don't know a lot about the U.S. border to be able to have a well-informed opinion on whether or not that's
we don't need to get into that. But the one thing I am kind of curious about, because you'd asked him about this in this video later on. To what extent does Project 2025? To what extent does that coverage? How is that filtered into the UK?
I mean, I think that we have. So right now we have populist far right politicians and a populist far right party, you know, like Nigel Farage, who's been jetting off. It's obviously a bit different because this was a new thing, and I think many people voted for them as a kind of like protest vote, because they felt very disillusioned with the Conservative Party that typically represents the right. And I think that after what's happened with the riots recently in the UK and the disinformation and stuff, their popularity in the way that they've handled and responded to that has also gone down quite a bit amongst many of the people who voted for them in the general election. But they're the main ones who would be like promoting the idea that like Christian nationalism is good, agreeing with that stuff in the US. Our mainstream kind of like political class, I think, are sort of not shocked by it, but they think it would be a very like bad thing, you know, that this conservative think tank with its ideas around Christian nationalism would undermine sort of a constitutional democracy in that way. I think the consensus is that that would be a bad thing for America, that you don't want to replace kind of, if anything, you want to move in the opposite direction and have sort of more and more professionals and civil servants in politics rather than, you know, fewer and fewer, and you know, have everything just like a polarized political hot take issue rather than like an expert like making
hot heads and tub thumpers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think, you know, and I always kind of wonder about that because like with the 2025 thing makes me think that, like, I mean, to me, it sort of brings up, I mean, I think I tried to bring this up with Doug last night, but again, like, the idea of the Project 2025 thing has been around for a long time. The mandate for leadership that Project 2025 comes out of has been around since 1981.
Yeah,
since the first Reagan administration, they've been doing that kind of stuff. The reason that it's popular now is because he talked about it. Trump talked about it in 2022, basically saying like, you know what, we did stumble a little bit in my first term getting in, because I think he was frankly surprised that he won. And when he got in, they didn't really have the wave of necessary individuals, the manpower to really get things off the ground. The whole point of a Project 2025 is to make sure that happens. The thing that I think is odd to me is hearing somebody like Doug say, well, Trump isn't one-to-one in agreement with Project 2025. Like, well, that's not the point.
Yeah, the point is that it should be like obvious kind of condemnation of those things rather than sort of comments that are first untrue and not denouncing the policy suggestions, and also like clearly made to politically distance himself because he knows that those policy suggestions are like harmful to US constitutional democracy, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, it's not a I think that Republican voters should be more concerned about that as well. Like, I think your typical Republican voter should actually be like against the Republicans in this election purely based on that, right? And then they should be saying, look, we want to just get rid of Trump, get some of these like more normal Republicans into like the position of power in the party rather than this like weird Christian nationalism nonsense. But I guess the political landscape has kind of shifted between the parties. Like maybe there needs to be a new centrist conservative party or something in the US, but I don't know if that would even be possible to do.
Well, I mean, the Overton window in the United States is pretty right wing anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, the idea of like a Kamala Harris type is kind of right wing.
Yeah.
She came out in her last video and said she's like for fracking and unconditional aid to Israel and that kind of stuff. That's pretty right wing. So yeah, there really isn't an alternative to that, with the exception of somebody like Bernie Sanders or an AOC, and even they, in terms of like European politics or political theory, come across what, center?
The Democrats, sorry, or but
yeah, I mean, if you got somebody like a Bernie Sanders or an AOC, if you were to like plop them down in Germany,
so there's actually the Financial Times did a piece on this. U.S. Democrats to the left of conservatives. There's actually some data on this. Oh god, but I'm using DuckDuckGo rather than Google, and it doesn't give me the right bloody.
I want to mention to Dave Rogers. You may have heard it from lefties about the whole, JD Vance wrote the foreword to Project 2025. That might be going around online. If it is, I would let you know. That's not necessarily coming from lefties. It's just coming from people that are picking that view up and repeating it on TikTok and other forms of social media.
Let me see if I can find if this is the right one with the graphics. I think it's this one. Oh, that's not really very good. Can you see that okay?
I just shared it up here. British conservative voters are closer to U.S. Democrats than Republicans on most social issues. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
So you can see though, like even on some of these issues, like abortion is never justifiable. You can see both like our left and right wing kind of major parties are actually to the left, or the voters at least are to the left of the Democrats even on this issue in the US, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Christian values thing as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is interesting about that, the kind of divide, because one of the things that, if I'm paying attention to, like if I'm listening to what's his name, LBC, it's the
they've got a few hosts, yeah. So, but
who's the guy with the book? How They Broke Us?
How They Broke Us? Yeah. Oh, I've forgotten. It's like Brian or something.
Oh, James O'Brien.
James O'Brien.
James O'Brien. Yeah, I don't know that I 100% agree with that guy on politics, but I fucking love the way that guy makes a point. Like rhetorically, that dude is just on point, like just and slick as shit. But yeah, if I'm listening to any of that kind of stuff to kind of figure out what's going on in England and its politics, I always think this is kind of interesting because when there's this sort of pearl clutching about how right wing the Tories are and what they're doing, and granted, the last 14 years of Tory leadership in the UK has been, I think, an unmitigated disaster, right? Like, I mean, it's been awful to the point where they were literally running on a campaign of like, hey, you think the government's crap, we'll fix it. Like, you've been running it for 14 years. Like, what the and then like turnout was the lowest it's ever been. I'm like, yeah, you think? But when I hear like British conservatives say something, I always feel like, okay, I'm always waiting to hear that part where they say something like incredibly racist, which I'm waiting for from an American. It's only a matter of time before the American comes around like, well, it's because of these colored folks. It's because of these unwed moms. It's because
let's see if we can get hot mics in the Kamala and Trump debate.
Exactly. Yeah. It astounds me the extent, because like I think the weird thing is hearing like conservative media over here say like, oh, well, there's conservatives in the UK. And I'm like, based on those kinds of numbers, I'm like, they're conservative, but not in the way that you think.
But there are increasingly, I think, ties between the kind of like, the Steve Bannon media ecosystem in the US and, people with similar political aims in the UK, particularly coming, using tools like YouTube, for example.
Right.
And so you also have this organization, GB News, which it's not been profitable for several years, but it was, it was founded on the principle of like, it will be the platform for free speech, because that's, such an issue, because obviously the BBC can't report accurately, even though they do on most things, and they apologize if they get things wrong. But regardless, founded on that kind of basis. And I think one of the main investors is this like Saudi legatum group, which is sort of weird. And then one of the other ones is who's the guy who's Candace Owens' husband? He's like, he's involved in CPAC. I think he funds that. but he's one of the financial backers of GB News in the UK. And the point is, the point that I'm making, it doesn't matter what the guy's name is, but overall, that basically there's this organization that's deeply involved with the kind of like really toxic aspects of US right-wing politics. And
his name is George Farmer, and he totally looks like the kind of white guy that Candace Owens would marry. Like, I don't know why. As soon as I pulled him up, like when you said Candace Owens' husband, this man looks exactly as I imagined.
But the point is that at a loss, right, for several years, the loss to the sound of millions, have been funding this news organization that's an attempt to sort of, pollute our media ecosystem and pushes all of these nonsense like American talking points, along, where they're obsessed with trans people, obsessed with the woke, obsessed with LGBT pride, and obsessed, in a way that none of the normal news companies care about these things, right? They're reporting on actual news, whereas these people are saying, they're trying to make politics all about this, but all they care about is identity politics nonsense. They've been flagged by Ofcom, our regulatory body for news, multiple times for having active conservative MPs like interviewed by other conservative MPs as hosts. So in the UK, you're meant to, if you're interviewing an MP, you're either meant to have like someone as opposition from a different party for a different point of view, or like critical questions, whereas they've literally just had like softball questions from one MP to another, like how amazing are your policies and stuff like that.
How right wing are you, right winger? I'm as right wing as you, right winger. I'm right wing.
It's just like insanely stupid, the whole thing. But that's the kind of place where these voices are cropping up, where there's these attempts to cultivate. Like there was this Bitcoin scammer guy, Calvin Robinson, who's been live action role playing as a Christian for a few years. And, he does these pieces on GB News where he's like, we used to be a Christian country. Our Christian values are no longer being expressed because, and it's like,
is that his actual accent? He
looks like that. And he wears the fucking dog collar and everything. And it's like, this guy was selling fucking Bitcoins, and you get these, there's these dipshits now. I'll find you an example actually of
please do. Yeah.
Not just of Calvin Robinson, but of the type of the way that this spreads out into the media.
This is something that has been concerning me, because one of the things that would come up would be this idea of sort of right-wing ideological creep. And one of the things that I've known for a long time is that some of the think tanks and groups here in the United States were actively doing stuff in the UK and in Canada to try to spur the same stuff, and to, usually lower degrees. But it's always made me kind of wonder, like, is that why the Tories are so fucking awful? If they're taking these bits, these like leadership bits from some of these like think tanks in the United States, yeah, of course they're going to run the UK into the ground. Like it's not going to work.
I think they tried to do that, but the UK sort of like voter base is made up of too many centrist dads that it just sort of like didn't work as they planned.
Yeah.
I think what it has done is there's lots of this demographic, this sort of like lonely young man. I think that it is fairly effective amongst them, and they become radicalized. And so you see, for example, like this guy who's trying to start a YouTube channel, and this got recommended to me the other day. So he's he's called the channel Slightly Offensive, but all because, edgelord. I'll talk about just like the tropes Doug was appealing to. I'll say the things no one's willing to say. Like it's the blacks that are doing it or whatever.
Yeah. The truth. Oh, the truth stings. Yeah.
But then also, something that I was finding funny, the crucifix positioned on the table and the St. George's cross in the background and the brand new, probably like a King James Bible that's never been
that fucking thing's never been cracked. Like that spine is brand new. Yeah.
I guarantee the guy has no idea. And you probably won't know the law, but this guy, Nick Griffin, he was the leader of the British Nationalist Party, the BNP, and they were an outwardly racist organization that got like banned, and a load of their members went to like prison, and so
oh my god.
And this is the type of person who I think is sort of the reason that this person's like LARPing Christianity and involving that in the politics and thinks that that's the values and stuff, I think is because of the way that the media that's being created by GB News with like people like Calvin Robinson and stuff saying, you know, Christian values are my bad politics and stuff. I think it's that what that political scientist guy called diagonalization, sort of like creating these heuristics of allegiances between concepts, so it makes it very easy for people to just form these associations and lump people in categories of like my side, other side, bad, good, world's all kind of like black and white and so on.
Right. Nick Griffin. Wow. Well, you've opened up. I like the fact that entire thing was set up at almost exactly the same as a video that I saw years ago when they executed Daniel Pearl. Like it looks like the same shot. It's the same room. But
it's like Bannon's war room, right? Like he's got Jesus behind him, hasn't he? And
sure, yeah, the St. George. I love that Bible too. Like, is that a well-read Bible? It sure isn't.
No, I guarantee the guy doesn't know the first thing about Christianity. Like he
probably doesn't. And it's probably for the best. I didn't realize George Farmer is English. He's of the Reform UK party.
Right. But I'm pretty sure he's a big funder of CPAC, though I could be wrong. Let me find the article that I got.
Because Reform UK that's Nigel Farage's party, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Money behind. So. I think it was it this article. And then there's also a good TLDR news thing on it, I think, as well.
I got sucked into like a right-wing kind of thing. Now I'm just looking at photos of Brett Cooper. Sorry. she's quite cute. She's a Nazi.
Yeah, George Farmer, I think, gave 200,000 in 2019 to. Oh no, he's former chair of Turning Point UK.
Oh God. Okay, so he's the UK equivalent of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh God.
And then there's another guy, Chris Harborne, who's given 10 million to Reform. But then the GB News backers are. Let me find out. So it doesn't make money. Blah blah blah.
I was going to ask, now that the Tories are no longer in power, how is the UK going? Because my understanding is Labour has an enormous lift cleaning up some of the shit Labour left behind.
I mean, I think, Paul Marshall, that's the guy.
Paul Marshall?
Yeah, he's the guy who's bankrolling GB News. And Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, that's ARC, that's the Jordan Peterson thing.
Oh yeah, Marshall's from
Evangelical Christian,
member of he's a donor to the Liberal Democrats.
News, Rupert Murdoch's Fox News.
Yeah. Ooh, New Statesman named him as the 17th most powerful right-wing political figure in the UK in 2023.
So that, how the political landscape in the UK, I think, is that I mean, there are a lot of issues because we've been making cuts for a long time. So most of our public services are kind of on their knees, right? Like horrifically underfunded. And
right.
So there's such a large number of issues that need tackling at once, and frankly, there just isn't the money to deal with it. I think there's something like a 20 billion shortfall in the budget for what's needed, which is sort of, there's an irony here as well, because I think that an independent report says that we lost 40 billion from being outside of the EU. So from leaving the EU, we've lost 40 billion in. So we technically have.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many complicated issues that we face. Like just to take one, for example, like there's not enough prison spaces. So then the courts can't like prosecute people because there's literally not the spaces for them to go into. So then, like when we had these riots recently based off of the misinformation and disinformation spread by people like Nigel Farage, I don't know if you know, there was this stabbing in Southport. A guy born in the UK of Christian Rwandan parents. So because the racist will say he's still one of the others because his parents were Rwandan, but he was born in the UK, and clearly some kind of like crazy in some way. What I mean by that is it's like schizophrenic or something, I don't know, but he goes to this Taylor Swift kids party and like stabs a bunch of the kids. And then a number of accounts, so like Andrew Tate, Nigel Farage shared misinformation where there was this fake name being spread. So in the UK, the police can't release the name of a suspect if they're under 18 years old by law. So this kid was 17 years old, and so they didn't release his name. Now, the framing from the people on the right was the reason that they've not released his name is because he's an immigrant. Yeah, he came over here on a boat and his name is Ali Al Shakti. And so they won't tell you the truth. And then it's like, rise up, Lions of England, and defend our streets. And then, you get all these like hooligans and idiots basically going out there.
I'm just seeing people watching those scenes from what was the Robin Hood movie?
Yeah, exactly. It's the exact same shit. It's not based on anything historical. It's just like they saw that movie and like it makes them feel patriotic, and they're like, the Lions of England roar.
I don't know why that reminded me of Russell Crowe's line. When Lambs. I don't know. I can't remember what the way the line works. He says it multiple times, and then he ends up like defending England after the signing of the Magna Carta from the invasion of the French. And I'm like, what the fuck kind of movie is this?
And then you had fucking Elon Musk jump in, commenting on some of this misinformation stuff, saying, mark my words, civil war is here or something. Like there will be civil war in the UK, boosting this misinformation further. And so then one of the issues for like Keir Starmer is, well, who's our current prime minister now? It's like, how do I deal with these riots, right? And so he wanted like fast processing of people engaging in the violence to show kind of like firmness, rule of law, and so forth. But there's not the places in prisons, and so he's got to like release people who are coming to the end of their sentences to free up the spaces. And it's like, how do you deal with this problem overall? Well, we need to build more prisons. Well, how do we do that? And then our prisons are like crumbling anyway, or we can't get the salaries aren't high enough to attract good candidates to be prison officers. Can you increase the salaries? Is there the funding to do that? Like that's this host of sort of impossible problems that the prison system faces. And then you've got like similar sort of problems to do with like infrastructure and trains, waterways, public services. The NHS is another one where there's like just these massive systematic issues that need to be dealt with.
And I've heard that's way underfunded.
Massively underfunded. But there's also like just so many issues. For example, like we're losing all our doctors because they haven't had a pay rise in real terms in years, right? And so we train them all, and then they all just go to like Australia or the US and get like paid 4 times as much. And then there are also these like weird schemes that the government introduced to create like not real doctors, so they couldn't leave the UK, but they do like an apprenticeship, but then they like misprescribe and create more problems because they like diagnose people wrong, and then there's like secondary health complications from the misdiagnosis and stuff. So just like that. There's so many, there's issues with like the digital systems of the NHS and how you unify all of those and transfer patient records across the board. And there's issues with, what the relationship between the NHS and private services should be. That I don't envy the politicians who have to resolve all of this stuff, but it all requires money and time. Like there's no, magic switch. And so I think the kind of message from Starmer is like, to see real change on any of these things, it's going to take a while. Like you can't, and I think that's true. And I am optimistic that, we have professionals who are making broadly the right choices. But it's not going to be fixed quickly, the UK. Like it's going to take a lot of time, I think, to undo a lot of these issues.
It's kind of scary, but yeah, I'm hoping that they can do it. The problem is that anytime this kind of happens, where you had like the conservatives that were in power, that were supposedly the ones that were, fiscally conservative, the party of probity, the party of pragmatic leadership, and all that kind of stuff, and end up like just basically fucking a hole into the country the size of, basically just turning it into a sinkhole, and then they leave, and the opposition party takes power and basically ends up having to do damage control, and they end up taking the hit in terms of
I think some of this is, of course, political spin though as well, because I think they've tried to say the books were far worse than we ever could have known. And I think that that's not true. I think that that is political spin. I think because that they have to publish the books to the Office of Budget Responsibility, which had been done by the Conservatives, and they knew exactly what they were getting. Yeah, okay. So I do think that Labour did know exactly what they were getting, but they knew all along that they would have to basically implement some form of austerity in order to kind of rebalance things, to put funding into public services eventually. But I think that they're trying to like sort of blame shift to make it, to kind of like vindicate themselves from the hard decisions that they have to make, which I understand, because people aren't going to kind of receive, well, oh, we're just doing the same thing or whatever. But I think one thing that they've made plenty of adult choices on things that the Conservatives easily could have done, and just there wasn't the political will to do, like scrapping the Rwanda scheme, which was just this, we lost 5 million on that, and we sent one person to Rwanda who came back. Like that was just a fucking pointless policy, and they just got rid of it on day one. And it's like, that is the right approach, I think, because we don't like that 5 million is just completely wasted on that scheme. Why would we keep paying into this crazy scheme that does absolutely nothing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you guys got the Tories out of there, because jeez, what a scandal-ridden bunch of wankers! I mean, holy fuck. The one dude that got in trouble, I can't remember what he was.
Boris, you talking about? Or...
He was I think he was an MP. He got in trouble because he was doing an enormous amount of cocaine. It was seen publicly. And he said, his defense was he was drinking, as he put it, super potent Japanese whiskey. And I'm like, I drink Japanese whiskey, and it's the same proof as any other whiskey. It's not more potent. It's not like he was drinking Bacardi 151, and that's not an excuse for doing coke. Like, what the? His story was or the guy that got accused of looking at porn on his phone. He was looking up tractors, and he went to the wrong website, and he got into some stuff, and then he's like, the first time it was a mistake, but then the second time, they caught me looking at it. I went back to that website. It was pretty good. And he just admitted to it. I was like, my God, I love this. I wish I lived in the UK so I could be an MP. It's fucking awesome.
I think there's sort of like various breaches of the ministerial code, like lying in Parliament, violation of like lockdown rules, having parties and stuff, the leaked WhatsApp chats. Like there was so much.
Oh yeah, there was just from all of it. It was just
private
insane.
Contract, the private PFI, not PFI contracts. Sorry, the private contracts related to COVID, which went to people's friends. This was one issue where we gave like millions of pounds in taxpayers' money for these contracts that never got delivered on for PPE protective gear during COVID. And like the contracts went to just like the personal friends of these people, and they got millions, and just nothing ever came from it. Like that is a massive scandal. Just so many issues with the previous government.
I kept thinking, like, it was actually starting to color my view of the UK, because I kept thinking, like, oh, I'm going to get my passport renewed, and then I'm going to schedule a trip. I'm going to do it. I'm going to head over to the UK and visit Ireland. And every time I would see, like, there were TikTokers that I followed and stuff in the UK, and it was just like, it sounds like the way the politics are going, the UK is closed. Like, it was just like, holy shit. Like, I don't know if I want to go over there.
I mean, I think we have serious problems to address in the next sort of like 4 or 5 years of government to try and remediate some of these problems. Because I think a lot of the appeal of the misinformation stuff is because people's sort of material conditions are worsening in various ways, like things like wage stagnation, degradation of public services. I think they lead to people feeling sort of like this sense of negativity and everything crumbling and misery and stuff in their lives. And then the simple solutions and the fear and stuff start to creep in and color the people's worldview and how they look at the world. You know, they don't think, oh, this is the result of like improper economic policy or something. Instead, like, you know, this is because of migrants or something starts to become more appealing.
And needing to sober up a bit from drinking is always a legitimate excuse for using Coke in my book. Yeah, I got to drive home. Sexy tractors. All right. Well, I think I'm going to get out of here. I'm gonna grab breakfast, and because I have not had that yet.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, thanks, Nathan, for coming on. And we actually didn't spend that much time talking about the other guy.
Fine.
we were talking about your country, and it can be, and how it can be great again without Trump.
We need Liz Truss back. 10 years to save the West.
Liz Truss.
She
was my favorite. She was my favorite, man. I loved her.
Did you not see? She was at CPAC, where she got a load of really good ideas from American conservatives.
Did she bring those back to you along with like a
Toblerone?
Yeah,
she wrote a book. She went over there to CPAC. She wrote a book called 10 Years to Save the West, which is filled with all these ideas from these the IEA, who I think are related to the Heritage Foundation, and like, you know, all these like libertarian policies and stuff. She started using different branding from the Conservative Party branding, using like libertarian branding, and yeah, it's just.
I had a conversation with Orban, and now I know exactly how to run a country. Like, do you? Please share.
Just less regulation for the billionaires.
When she emerged on the international level, when I saw her give a speech, I was like, oh my God, they're not serious. And you were.
We didn't get to vote on it. Let's be clear that it was internally in the Conservative Party.
I know.
And this is what I find insane about her backwards justification. She says it wasn't very. The problem is I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which was like overrule like the Bank of England as an independent financial authority, because we're not democratic enough. So she wanted to be an authoritarian who wasn't voted in by anybody and was able to overrule the Bank of England on financial policy, and that's
in a democratic way.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I don't know if you understand how much I really appreciated her being on the international stage. I loved her. Every flub, every goof of, and the fact that she's basically an NPC. Like, every time I saw her, I was like, that's not a real person, right? Like, there's no way she's that like fucking addled. Like
40% of all cheese is imported. That's an outrage.
Didn't she do the one where she was talking about like UK national stuff, and everything that she mentioned were products that you guys do make? You guys do have your own local ones, but every product was something that you guys got from a different country or different nationality. It was like, oh, cheese, like that's French. Turkeys, that's North American. It was just like, this is embarrassing. Like, I know you guys have your own like turkeys now, but you didn't before. Turkeys.
Her speech at CPAC was funny, where she was she was like, I bought a Pennsylvania shower head in the shape of a Liberty Bell, just like Ronald Reagan had or something, and she's like, this is great.
Oh my god. Yeah, she should get rid of that. I know what that is. Those are junk. Those will fail under the under UK water standards. It will just dissolve. Yeah, it's no good. Oh, Liz, she's more fun than Pinecreek. 100%. Yeah.
Similar. I think they'd get along though. Actually, I think.
I think they would. Yeah, I think they'd be like, oh, okay. Like, so what are we gonna like? Are we disgusted by trans people? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Just let people, let the businesses fail. NHS can fail. People's health is their own responsibility. People got rich because they're good people. They'll sort all the problems out. Like
the economy rewarded them, right? That's how things get sorted out.
being
Well,
good
I do have a feeling that cucumber sandwich is maybe too spicy for Doug, but that's just my opinion. So maybe they have to like tone it down. More mayonnaise, less cuke.
The crusts have got to
Yeah.
be cut off.
All right, Nathan. I'll catch you later. It's
Yeah, no
great
worries.
having you on. Yeah. Thanks for being on here. All right, folks. I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for joining me at this weirdly early show. I'm gonna take off. I've got stuff to do. And because I was up so early, I've got a nap in store at some point. So, all right, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you've got suggestions or questions or anything like that, jeffersonspatchcock@gmail.com. I will talk to you later. See you later. Damn it. Wrong video. Let's play this one.